sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian, but my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to comedy connoisseur, Virginia Jones.
Thank you. I do consider myself a connoisseur of comedy. I like to torture non-comedian people and ask them, who's your favorite comic? And I'll tell you what's wrong with them.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
This week, we are coming to you live in person with each other from Denton, Texas, because we are here to do a very special event for our friend John Freeman, who we've mentioned before on the podcast. Everybody from college and everybody from every band he was in is here, and it's a really nice time.
It's really beautiful. I don't know if it's nice. It's really sad, but I'm glad we're both doing it.
Yes, I'm glad we're both doing it. Laura, every week we trade off topics. So if one week it's my topic and I've picked it and I've researched it, you won't know what it is. But then the next week, it'll be your topic and you've researched it and I won't know what it is. So this week it is my topic, and my topic is, it's not about you.
Well, already I'm going to say untrue.
I call BS. Many times I think, well, this thought I'm having is super basic and dumb and simple. But also I think if it took me this long to come up with it, maybe it will be helpful to others. A lot of the times you hear the phrase, it's not about you, and it sounds like an insult. It sounds like someone's being mean to you, but it's a gift in many, many places in your life to say, what's happening is not my fault. It's not my problem. It's not about me.
Accurate. I think it's easy for the human mind to make everything about us. I think essentially when we're babies and we're newborns, life is all about us. So we have to assume that it's always going to be about us, even if it isn't.
You come into the world a totally dependent and totally selfish little person. And many of us never stop.
Most of us.
It is such a handy phrase that it is the title of 2 different self-help books. One of them by your personal guru, Dr. Ramani.
Yes.
A common example, something that I've thought about in my life. If someone I thought of as a friend or a good acquaintance blows me off at a party or does something towards me that I would look at it as rude, odds are this has nothing to do with me. But I have had a tendency to personalize it and going through the list. What have I done to them? Did I say something to annoy them? And so in that way, it's all about me. It's a negative aspect.
It's a coping strategy, right? Because I don't know what household you grew up in, but in my household, my parents made me responsible for their emotional life. I had to predict and have a plan and understand everything all the time.
And cheer up one parent if they were sad and calm down one parent if they were aggravated. I feel personally responsible for other people's moods. An example I have in my mind is I was doing a comedy show with a friend that I don't see all the time. And I was excited to see my friend. But when I get there, he was slumped in a seat and he refused to look at me and he didn't really talk to me. And he did his set and he slumped on home. And I was like, I must have done something terrible. Days later, texted him, what's up? What did I do? And he was like, oh, nothing. He was trying to have a relationship with someone who was an avoidant and he was miserable. He was fighting for a doomed something. His behavior had nothing to do with me. And it was kind of weird in retrospect that I thought that it did, because why would it?
If the two of us have made plans to spend time together and you're miserable and rude the whole time, right, it does feel personal. I also feel like this is a little bit of a sticky wicket because I went on a girls' trip with a friend at one point who had a lot of stuff going on. And she really upset everybody in the group in different ways and at different times. And I remember we didn't tell her because we didn't want to ruin the trip. I decided I'm just going to wait until she says something. And it turned out that took 6 months when she found out that she hadn't been invited to one of our weddings.
That's a big one. That's a big indicator that you're out.
Right. She said, I used to think everything was about me all the time. I've learned to just make the determination now that it's never about me, which is an overcorrection.
Which is all the way the other way. And you had to say, well, in this case, this does happen to have something to do with it.
Actually, all of us are really upset and angry with you.
Can you think of a time when you have taken something personally or taken on something as an adult that wasn't your thing?
Well, I remember it was difficult in my marriage because my husband would often come home with this sort of unbridled rage. And it probably didn't have anything to do with me, but it did affect my happiness.
Right. It's hard not to take it personally when it's in your house.
Right. I remember he came in and he just kicked the trash can and we were in therapy and he was like, well, I was just mad. It didn't have anything to do with her. Why is she making it about her? But this is the environment I have to live in. And I don't want to live in an environment where people are kicking trash cans.
You're making my life bad. And that is about me. Even though I may not be the source of your anger, I am still the recipient of it.
Right.
Another example, I had a friend who was applying for a job and she was having trouble scheduling an appointment for an interview with a recruiter that worked for the company she was applying for. She got frustrated. Well, this company doesn't want me or they wouldn't act like this. And I told her, like, that company is made of a lot of different departments. The recruiter who you're trying to talk to isn't the hiring manager, doesn't have anything to do with the position or what they need in that position or what they think of you. What that person thinks of you actually doesn't matter if you meet the qualifications. You are personalizing a whole company. It's not that the whole company has decided that you stink.
Well, and that's kind of when we start moving into toddler territory.
Right. Things I'm embarrassed about now. I was engaged to be married and I had set a date and I told everybody what the date was because I thought it was very funny because I wanted to get married on April Fool's Day.
It was a Wednesday and it wasn't that funny for me because I had to get off work.
I always appreciate my sisters coming and dressing like they were going to a prom at the end of their lives.
I thought, this is my sister's wedding.
Right.
And even though it's on a Wednesday, it's still my sister's wedding. So I'm going to make an effort.
I loved everything about it. But I announced my wedding date. And then a friend who got engaged after me announced her date. And it was 2 weeks before my date. And I thought, wow, she's really blowing up my spot. And she wasn't. And the fact was that there were 8 people at my actual wedding. We had a party later. It didn't matter at all that she got married before me, but I chose to take it really personally because I was witnessing the rise of the bridezilla. I have my wedding date and I have my colors and her colors are too similar to my colors. It's all BS. It doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Well, I think that weddings do bring this out in us. I feel like because we only give women one day in her lifetime to be special and important, we have to try to be the most special and the most important. But I also found at my wedding that a lot of people tried to make it about them. I remember my sister, for example, saying, why did you schedule your wedding in July in Mexico? It's far too hot. And I said, because my bridesmaid is in school and this is when she's graduating. So I wanted her to be here. And I remember my mother complaining about various things. Why did you pick this location? Because it's my wedding. It's not your wedding.
Even though I'm not proud of my behavior and I've apologized for it, you have to admit it was pretty hot.
It was incredibly hot. And now I don't even speak to that girl. So looking back, it was a dumb decision, but
it was where you were at the time and it was correct.
Well, she had been my best friend for years and years.
Yeah. When I moved to LA, one of the things I did to try to get established and get people knowing who I was I started a comedy show. And the venue that I wanted to have it in was a goth club in Glendale. The night that they had available for me was Monday nights. So I had a show on Monday nights in Glendale. And then some other comedy friends started a show on Monday nights in Los Feliz, which is far too close to Glendale. And at the time I thought I had started my night first. How dare they do that? They're out to get me. But they did it because that was the night that the venue they wanted was open.
And did they even know that you were doing a night?
My friend and I used to say in college, when someone was acting dramatic or making things about them, we would say, we're not just all sitting around reading Laura magazine.
The first question that comes to my mind is, why not?
Yeah, you all should be. I mean, it's a good magazine.
It's incredible articles.
When people say it's not about you, especially when it's not about you, about strangers, and they'll say things like, you never know what the other person is dealing with. If someone cut you off in traffic, what if their loved one is in the hospital or their baby's being born? Or what if they're just a born natural a-hole? None of those things have to do with you.
I remember I had a client once complaining about a woman who was driving ahead of him. Let's be real, it was a man. He felt that she was driving recklessly. And then he looked into the car and saw that she was feeding a child cereal with a spoon over her shoulder. And I remember him saying, can you believe it? Yeah, I can believe it. I've been a mom.
Sometimes that's how it happens. Is it safe? No.
Is it the best you can do in that moment?
Yes. You've got a screaming child, and what you have to feed that child is cereal.
And she didn't wake up this morning and go, what does John Smith think about how I feed my kid and how I drive to work?
I work with a woman, and she drives the same kind of car as me, which is a very cute Mini Cooper hardtop. She had a gray one and she came back to work and she had a green one with black stripes. I asked around. I didn't ask her because I wanted to see what other people said. She is a Chinese lady working in America. She speaks what is known as business English, which is plenty good enough for work, but it doesn't have a lot of idioms, the idiosyncrasies, the subtleties of American normal talk. Apparently, in her gray Mini Cooper, she had cut someone off or done something. This jackalope had followed her to work and scratched a terrible word into the side of her car. And the sad part was she didn't know what the word meant and she had to ask somebody at work. And when she found out what it meant, she said, okay, it was a lease. And she took it back and said, you guys deal with it. I'm getting another one. And yes, it is absolutely nutter butter that a human person was so mad at something that obviously didn't cause an accident and didn't affect this person's life in the long term, but he had so much road rage, he felt entitled to stalk her and destroy her property. And that didn't have anything to do with her, really. Maybe there was a moment where she could have made a different decision, but his outsized reaction was not about her.
Yeah, it was all about him and his rage and his racism.
So many little misogyny things come up in my memory. I remember getting chastised because I put makeup on in the bus and people are like, do that at home. It's impolite. It's rude to put makeup on in the bus.
Why?
Because I am exposing men to part of my grooming ritual. And that is admitting just in front of God and everybody that I don't look like this all the time.
Why would you do that? That's so cruel.
That's so rude. But
I mean, I would understand if you were like changing a tampon on the bus.
No, you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't change a tampon. Shouldn't probably shave your legs. There are extremes. But a lot of the things that I've been corrected about are just misogyny. It's just like, how dare you as a woman take up space or do anything at all? Okay. And next, I want to talk about specifically show business. And I know that I bring everything back to comedy. Part of comedy and part of all art is asking for stuff. Even if you're an independent artist, you have to ask for gallery spots. You have to ask for press coverage. If you're a comedian, you're asking for show spots and you're asking for club spots. It's very easy to get up in your head about, oh, they never booked me. They must hate me. Maybe I did something. Maybe someone's been talking crap about me. It's just math. Like every time you ask a club to headline you and they say no, or they don't respond at all, which is more usual, it's probably not because they don't like you as a person. It's because you're asking them to take a gamble that you, someone who might be very funny, but not that famous, can sell enough tickets for them to pay their staff and pay their rent and pay you. It's a business decision and it's not really about you. They're running a business. They're not running an arts college.
As you know, I've been listening to the Severance podcast with Adam Scott. Ben Stiller picked him for the role originally. He was the go-to person he always planned on having, but Apple TV wasn't sure about him and they made him audition. And Ben Stiller was saying, I apologize so much. I can't believe that happened. It's so sad. And Adam was like, I've been acting for a long, long time. I'm not above that. And
it's not a big deal.
Right. And sometimes you see the decisions that these people make are split second decisions, I think, with casting and all that stuff. And you're like, well, why are these 5 people always in all the movies? Well, because those are the people that are bankable. Those are the people that bring in money. And I just think they wanted to put someone more famous in the role than Adam Scott. Not because Adam Scott isn't born for the role, because he is, and he was amazing in it, but they didn't know that at the time.
And if he hadn't been cast, it wouldn't have anything to do with his skill or his ability to bring himself and a lot of great things to the role. It would just be because his name was not on the roster of most famous names. Hilariously, Apple is also turning out their pockets and saying, we don't have any money. We spend too much money making shows, but we also want the most famous people on our shows. Why is that happening? It's been incredibly helpful for me to realize that every show isn't going to book me. Life is not just a list of things that I need to tick off. Some shows aren't going to book me because the booker doesn't know me, or maybe they really don't like me. Maybe I'm not the right kind of comic to be on their show. Even when it is about me in that way, it's not about me.
And I think also sometimes you just are not remembered for whatever reason. I notice that a lot with TikTok. There'll be a creator that I haven't seen in a while. I'm like, oh, Sally's back on. And I'll remember that she exists and I'll remember everything about her. And I think the other piece that we forget, because we're all so self-centered, is that I have so many units of data in my brain all day long. And I'm not always going to think of you. This is why it's really important in show business, actually in any industry, to make yourself available to other people, because when you make yourself available, they will remember you and see you and think about you.
And I learned this when I was DJing. A weird thing about being asked to perform at such and such a place is you have to be present when you're not performing. My husband and I used to DJ. We had some regular club nights, but he always wanted more high profile club nights. But if we didn't go to that club, if the regular booker or the regular DJ didn't see us, they just wouldn't think about us. And that's not an insult. They're busy living their lives. They're having their thoughts. They're doing their thing. We may not enter into it. And that's not the same as being snubbed or being shut out. Luckily, I took that information to comedy and knew that it's important to go to shows and glad hand and meet people at festivals and just be present, because unfortunately, our eyes are very much tied to our brains in that way. And Laura brought up a story to me about a really talented actress who hadn't been in anything in a while, but ran into Mike White at a Halloween party. That's all of LA. It's all about trying to go to the right party and get in front of the right person. And one of the great things about not living in LA anymore is that I can just hang out with the people that I want to hang out with for the reasons that I want to hang out with them. This is when it gets weird. Even when someone's actions actually are because they do not like you as a person, that's still not about you, because if you're coming open and honest and doing the best that you can, that is all you can do. You cannot change yourself to be approved of by that person. So it's not your task to worry about it. We are number 4 in podcast searches for Adlerian psychology, guys. And that's for a reason.
The other piece of this is getting to a place where I'm okay with you not liking me. I'm okay with you not picking me. I can't take that personally. If you don't like me, then you don't like me. And those are just facts. And there's nothing I can do about it.
I can't make you love me if you won't.
I can't make your heart feel something it won't. Here in the dark, in these final hours.
In these final hours, what is happening? Are they going to die?
Well, she's about to lay down her heart, which I think involves a surgery. That's the great Bonnie Raitt, ladies and gentlemen, and they, thems.
So yeah, keep in mind that someone's behavior about you is not always a personal attack. That person might have other issues going on and it doesn't have to do with you. And making yourself the center of every situation looks like also self-centeredness, but self-centeredness in a very pathetic way. I knew a mentally ill person and she loved a band and was obsessed with a band, had dated a member of the band very briefly. She talked about it a lot, but it turned out it had been like 2 weeks in Italy or something. And they didn't come through to Los Angeles for a while. And she said, I know it's because they're trying to avoid me.
So when you're having thoughts like that, you should probably find out if you can get a diagnosis, because you might have a personality disorder.
Other situations where you can be helped with reminding yourself that it's not all about you. Susie Moore, life coach, wrote an article, public speaking. When we're nervous talking to a group, the anxiety we feel makes the speech about us. It's not about us. It's about the content, the message, the presentation. Is for other people to learn something through you, and you are the vessel. You don't need to feel like everybody's judging me. Everything hinges on my performance. It doesn't. It's not about you. When we don't get what we want, when you don't get the job, the date, the prize, whatever, it's not because there's a divine hand. So often with retrospect, we understand why things did not work out and the bigger plan for your life becomes clear. Many things just are not meant to be. Not everything is meant for you.
A lot of this goes back to the Buddhist practice of just being okay with whatever happens.
That's going to help you in a lot of situations. It's hard to remember, but when people ignore you, when they blow you off, flake out, they don't respond to you the way you want them to. That is also not about you.
And if you're struggling with that, you're really at an earlier stage of maturity than you need to be. There's that old adage about toddlers. When they see a cloud in the sky and it's pacing them, they think that the cloud is following them. So don't be a toddler.
Clouds do follow me. What do you mean?
That sounds like a personal problem.
In TikTok, there's a big theme of let them. If someone's going to ignore you, leave you behind, leave you on red, let them. Don't worry about it. Move on to the next thing, person, project.
I try to focus on the idea that this is their stuff. Let's say that they do think I'm the worst person that ever lived. I can't do anything to not be that for them.
It's also not your business if they like you or don't like you. Find the people who do like you. Hopefully there are a couple. Put your energy towards them. When haters are hating, Susie Moore says, your greatest critics are projecting their own fear, insecurities, and envy onto you. When people love to hate, it's about them and their issues. You actually have nothing to do with it. So stay out of it. The only way you can be affected by it is if you engage and allow it to. I, in the last year, have had several interactions with people who super duper didn't like me for various reasons. I would get these messages that were just a series of attacks. Your impulse is to go step by step and say, that's not true. I didn't say that. I never drove that car. Once I realized it didn't matter what I said, it didn't matter if I defended myself or did not defend myself. These people were just going to come back to block one, that I was a bad person and this and that. And it wasn't my problem to deal with. That was very freeing. It's hard because you think I should be able to make this person like me, make this person treat me better, make this person do what I want them to do. But you cannot, and it is not about you.
I try to drive this home a lot, especially imago therapy, reference our Lego My Imago episode. Everybody lives in their own reality. And I think just honoring that in this person's reality, I am the villain and I'm a bad person and they don't like me. And there's nothing I can do to change that or address it. I can only move on.
On the other side of this, if you feel that you have someone who you are assigning a lot of blame to for the things that are going on in your life, examine that. Is that real? Is that just something you're making up to take the pressure off yourself?
What I'm doing is I'm disempowering myself. I'm saying that this person is responsible for the good and bad that happened to me. And it is a road for disaster because there's no way that I can lead a good life when I'm not the person in control of it.
That's very true. It's hard because I think that the conventional wisdom in Hollywood is in order to heal or in order to get past this or that thing that's happened, you need an apology or need the person to change. And you might not get that stuff. You might just have to pick up and live your own life.
And if the person is invested in our relationship, then they might do that. But if they're not, that's another piece. I can't make you care about me. I can't make you value me. I can't make you like me.
You're in a situation where you wish someone would value you more. And that is also not about you.
I wish that I could have the relationship with this person that I once did have. And I'm finding that they don't seem interested in it. And it's painful to me. It's that Buddhist thing of letting go of expectations.
You've done, I think, the correct thing in letting your wishes be known and saying, hey, I want more interaction with you. I want more transparency with you. Now the ball is in their court. But if they don't want that, then they're not going to do it. My last tenet of it's not about you. In this world where you're engaged in many people's lives on social media, and there's a lot of performers, funny people, influencers that you can engage with. And then sometimes you're going to come across an opinion you guys do not share. Or sometimes there's someone in your family that you have a real rift with. And it is hard to remind yourself that that is also not about you. We are wired to personalize unpleasant situations. We are wired to personalize conflict. We are wired to see other people's choices as having something to do with us, and they do not.
But I think that that's part of our genetic heritage because we were living in small communities. We had to get along with each other in order to survive. I think a lot of this heightened awareness of other people's opinions is a way to keep our line alive and keep our DNA going.
A performer, they were on radio, they were on satellite radio. And it's like podcasting. When you hear this person's voice in your ears, it feels very intimate and very personal. When I found out he did not maybe have the most feminist opinions having to do with other comics and was willing to have people on his show that I thought were bad people, that was really hard.
We talking about Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he used to really guide my life. You know, he used to really...
I get it.
And I had to say, hey, Joe Rogan isn't for me anymore.
I had this similar experience with Morrissey. I felt that he and I aligned very closely in our values and beliefs. And then I found in the last few years that he's really kind of a boomer and not awesome.
And it feels like when it's someone you've been identifying with and put a lot of yourself into that relationship, it feels like a betrayal. It feels a little bit of a personality crisis.
Right. Because he's part of my history. Right. He was my first love. He's probably my first, last, my only, sadly. But it's hard to not take it personally when he's making such bad decisions.
Yeah. Awful, awful political statements, awful misogyny, just awful everything. Let's say it's something easier. You have a good friend. You like them a lot. You're a married person. Your life looks a certain way and they are just out in the wind. They're super being single and maybe they're a little bit of an F-boy and you don't approve of it. That doesn't have anything to do with you. If that's the choice that they're making, they're not actively having problems with it. You just have to say, oh, this is where they're at. And that is okay. And to some extent, you want the people in your life to live exactly the same life as you and have exactly the same opinions because that means no conflict and no friction. But that is not realistic.
I agree. Let's go back to Sartre with hell is other people. You can also just live alone and never speak to anybody and you'll have a pretty decent, simple life.
If you live in a shack in Montana and spend most of your time writing your manifesto, you're going to have a life free of conflict and free of this kind of concern. What do people think of me? Do people not like me? What can I do to make myself liked? It's going to be not maybe an interesting life, but it's going to be a very quiet life.
It'll be a very simple life. It may not be a very happy life, but there's not going to be a lot of complications.
So basically what we're saying is If you find yourself being hurt by other people and the way you're treated by them, the opinions they hold, their life preferences, maybe the best thing for you is to sling your hook and head off home.
Maybe the best thing for you is to find a hole, dig it a little deeper, jump in.
And if you don't want to put your whole body in the hole, you can just dig it big enough for your head. Pack the dirt in tightly around it, but not so tight that you can't breathe. And then
That's a really important point.
don't ever bury your head so tight that you can't breathe. Laura, what are your last thoughts on this topic?
I think when it comes to this and all other things, we have to consider balance, because ultimately, if I make everything about myself, then I'm not living a functional or healthy life. If I make nothing about myself, I'm also not living a healthy or functional life. I need to take responsibility for the things that are my responsibility. I don't need to make other people responsible for my emotional life, but I also have to have relationships where I can have certain expectations of people and try to do my best to be the best person that I can be. Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
Well, I got to say, I'm super tickled to hear you describing the Adlerian tasks. If someone doesn't like me and doesn't want to deal with me, that's not my task to deal with. My final thoughts are, it's easier to say than do, to not take things personally, but just try to examine it. When you feel yourself feeling sad or negative about an interaction or a person, question, is this about me? Is this my problem? Is this my thing to solve? Is this solvable? What does this thing have to do with my life? And what happens if I let go of this expectation of this person, place, thing, show, network, casting agency? What if I let go of that expectation? What happens then? Laura, I've been thinking, where can people find you on the internet if they wish to do so?
They can find me at my professional website, lauraryan.org. They can also find me on TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. They can follow the show on Instagram, My Sister's a Therapist Instagram, or they can go to our website, mysistersatherapist.com. Virginia, where would people find you if they're interested in your comedy career on the internet?
You can find a full calendar of my events, flyers for big events that I'm doing, and just a whole lot of stuff on www.badinia, BADINIA.com. That's also my TikTok, and it's also my Instagram. I want to say a special thanks to Tim K, who pointed out that not only does he listen to the show, he makes sure and listens to it to the very end, because that's probably a check mark somewhere in the algorithm. Probably it is, Tim. Thank you. If you want to talk to the show, if you have a topic suggestion, we would love to hear it, and write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you have a work opportunity for us, if you want me to MC something, if you want us to do a live podcast, if you want us to do a Q&A session with our hundreds of fans, you can contact us at hireus@mysistersatherapist.com.
And Tim, if you want to follow Virginia on Peloton, you can do that by looking up Badinia.
Someone from Austin did follow me on Peloton this week. I was very amused by it. It's totally meaningless. It doesn't do anything, but I love it. Thank you. Now, this is the part of the show, Laura, where you will sometimes read a review someone has sent us. Either they've posted it on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or they've just written us a nice email. Do you have something to share this week?
Of course I do. This is an Apple Podcast review from Jojo Cookie. It's a 5-star review, which is my favorite kind. Family, Feelings, and Funny is the title. It's like getting therapy without the copay, mixed with the kind of belly laughs you only get with your closest friends and family. Although Virginia and Laura have their own unique voices and perspectives, you can really tell that they've been through it all together and they share it all with us. Thank you, Jojo Cookie.
That's lovely.
Also, Jojo Cookie and anyone else listening, if you have any friends or relatives that like podcasts, especially like podcasts that are like ours, please tell them. Tell 5 friends right now.
This includes people who are interested in mental health, wellness, TikTok, comedy, Adlerian psychology,
Costco,
Imago,
Waterloo, bubble water,
campers. Please send them our way. In the meantime, I like to end the podcast with the inspirational words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. As he said, we can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.